Hello, my friend. Welcome back to Learn English Daily. I'm Sarah. Thank you for joining me again. Today is a very important day. It's my first day at English school.
To be honest, I didn't sleep very well. I kept thinking about today. What will my teacher be like? Will I make new friends? Will I understand everyone? I asked myself those questions again and again. But then my alarm rang. It was 7 o'clock. I opened my eyes. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then I looked out the window. The city was already awake. Cars were moving. People were walking. Someone was jogging in the park across the street. I smiled. Today's the day. I got out of bed. The room felt brighter than yesterday. Maybe. I felt different. I walked to the window. The sky was clear. It looked like it was going to be a beautiful morning. Good, I whispered. I'll take that as a good sign. I got dressed slowly. I wanted to make a good first impression. Not too formal. Not too casual. Just comfortable. I chose a light blue shirt, dark jeans, and my favorite white sneakers. Then I looked in the mirror. I smiled. Then I laughed. You look nervous. I said to myself, maybe talking to yourself isn't so strange. Sometimes it helps. I picked up my backpack. Before leaving, I checked everything one more time. Passport, wallet, phone, notebook, pen, water bottle? Perfect. I closed my backpack. Then I stopped. Something felt different. Yesterday, I packed because I had to. Today, I packed because I was ready. That made me smile. I left my room. The hallway was quiet. As I waited for the elevator, the doors opened. A man walked out. He looked about 60 years old. He smiled kindly. Good morning. Good morning. Big plans today? I nodded. It's my first day at English school. His face lit up. Really? Congratulations. Thank you. I hope everything goes well. I'm sure it will. He pointed toward my notebook. Keep writing. You'll be surprised how much you improve. I will. The elevator arrived. Before the doors closed, he waved. Have a wonderful first day. You too. The elevator started moving. Down, down, down. I quietly repeated his words. Have a wonderful first day. I liked that sentence. Maybe I'd use it someday. The hotel lobby was much busier than yesterday. People were checking out. Others were checking in. A family was looking at a city map. Two business travelers were drinking coffee. Near the entrance, I noticed Emma. She was waving at me. Sarah? I smiled. Good morning. Good morning. You look ready? I hope I am. She laughed. You'll do great. I brought you something. For me? She handed me a small paper bag. Open it. Inside, there was a banana, a small bottle of water, and a chocolate bar. I looked at her. You packed me a snack? She nodded. Trust me. On your first day, you never know when you'll get hungry. I laughed. This is so thoughtful. My mother always does this for me. So, today, I'm borrowing her idea. I smiled. Please thank your mother for me. Emma laughed. I will. Just then, my stomach made a quiet sound. Emma raised an eyebrow. I guess your stomach agrees? We both laughed. I skipped breakfast. I was too excited. She pointed across the street. There's a small bakery. We still have time. You should eat something. I looked at my watch. It was 7:45. I need to be there by 8:30. We have plenty of time. Come on. We crossed the street together. The smell reached us before we opened the door. Fresh bread, warm butter, coffee, and something sweet. The bakery was small, but it felt warm. A young woman behind the counter smiled. Good morning. What can I get for you? Emma looked at me. You order? I took a small breath. This was my chance. I smiled. Good morning. I'd like a cheese croissant. And a small cappuccino, please? Great choice. Anything else? I looked at Emma. She nodded. No, thank you. The woman smiled. That'll be $7. I paid. She handed me the receipt. Your order will be ready in just a minute. I stepped away from the counter. Emma smiled proudly. See? You didn't need my help? I smiled back. No, I didn't. And somehow, that small conversation felt like my first success of the day. Emma and I found a small table by the window. The bakery was cozy. Soft music was playing. People came in, ordered breakfast, and hurried to work. A few minutes later, the young woman returned. Cheese croissant, small cappuccino, and one blueberry muffin. Emma smiled. Thank you. Everything smelled wonderful. I picked up my cappuccino. It was warm. I took a small sip. That's really good. Emma laughed. I knew you'd like it. I looked around the bakery. A little boy was trying to carry a tray. It looked a bit too heavy. His father smiled. I can help. The boy shook his head. I can do it. Slowly, very slowly. He carried the tray to their table. When he finally arrived, he smiled proudly. His father clapped softly. Great job. Watching them made me smile. Emma noticed. What are you thinking about? I was just thinking. We all like doing things by ourselves. She nodded. Even if they're difficult. Exactly. Maybe learning English was the same. People could help me. But one day, I wanted to do it by myself. I finished my croissant. It was light, warm, and delicious. Emma looked at her watch. We should leave soon. I nodded. I'm ready. As we stood up, the woman behind the counter smiled again. Good luck today. Thank you. I hope your first day goes well. It means a lot. Outside, the morning air felt fresh. The streets were getting busier. People were riding bicycles. Buses stopped every few minutes. Students walked together. Some were laughing. Some were looking at their phones. Everyone seemed to have somewhere to go. Emma pointed down the street. The school is about a 10-minute walk. We started walking. The sidewalks were lined with trees. Some leaves moved gently in the wind. It was peaceful. So, Emma said, do you know anyone at the school? I smiled. Not yet. Then today. That will change. I hoped she was right. After a few minutes, Emma pointed ahead. There it is. I looked up. Across the street, I saw a modern building. Large glass windows, a bright blue sign, and many students walking through the entrance. Some carried backpacks. Others held notebooks and coffee cups. Some looked confident. Others looked nervous. Just like me. My heart started beating faster. This is it. Emma smiled. Ready? I took a deep breath. I think so. We crossed the street together. As we reached the entrance, I heard different languages all around me. Spanish, Japanese, French, Arabic, Korean, and English. Lots of English. For a second, I felt overwhelmed. There were so many people. Then I remembered something Lucas had said. Don't try to be perfect. Be curious. I smiled to myself. Yes, I could do that. Inside, the lobby was bright and welcoming. There were comfortable chairs, colorful posters. A world map covered one wall. Students stood in small groups. Some were introducing themselves. Others were laughing together. Near the reception desk, a sign read, Welcome new students. I smiled. That sign felt like it was written just for me. A friendly woman at the reception looked up. Good morning. Welcome. Are you a new student? Yes. My name is Sarah. She smiled warmly. It's lovely to meet you, Sarah. I'm Olivia. I'll help you get started. Those words immediately made me feel calmer. Olivia handed me a folder. Inside, you'll find your student card, a campus map, your class schedule, and some information about today's activities. Thank you. She pointed toward another table. Before class, please write your name on a name tag. Of course. I walked over, picked up a marker, and wrote carefully, Sarah. Under my name, I wrote, Italy. I looked at the badge for a moment. It suddenly felt real. I wasn't just visiting anymore. I was a student. Emma smiled. It looks good. I clipped the badge onto my shirt. Just then, someone standing nearby looked at it. His eyes lit up. Italy! He smiled. I've always wanted to visit Italy. I turned toward him. He looked about my age. He carried a notebook under one arm, and he had a friendly smile. I smiled back. Really? Yes. My name is Daniel. He held out his hand. I'm from Brazil. I shook his hand. I'm Sarah. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. For the first time that morning, I wasn't thinking about being nervous anymore. I was simply meeting someone new. Daniel smiled. So, is this your first English class too? Yes. What about you? He nodded. My first day. I arrived 2 days ago. How are you feeling? He laughed softly. A little nervous. I smiled. Me too. He looked relieved. Good. I thought I was the only one. I laughed. No. I think there are many students feeling the same way. Just then, another voice joined the conversation. Excuse me? We both turned around. A young woman was standing beside us. She looked friendly. Is anyone sitting here? She pointed to the empty chair nearby. Daniel shook his head. No. Please. She smiled. Thanks. She placed her backpack on the floor. My name is Aika. I'm from Japan. It's nice to meet you. I'm Sarah. I'm from Italy. I'm Daniel. I'm from Brazil. Aiko smiled. We already have 3 countries? Daniel laughed. And 3 different accents. We all smiled. That made the conversation feel easier. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Daniel looked at Aiko. What do you do? I work in a hotel. What about you? I'm a graphic designer. He looked at me. And you? I smiled. I worked in a design studio. But now, I want to improve my English, so I can work internationally one day. Daniel nodded. That's a great goal. What about you, Aiko? She smiled. I love traveling. I want to speak English with people from everywhere. I liked that answer. It wasn't about exams or grades. It was about people. Just then, a cheerful voice echoed across the lobby. Good morning, everyone. Several students turned around. A woman in her 30s walked toward us. She had a warm smile. She looked confident, but relaxed. Welcome to Riverside Language Center. My name is Emily. I'll be helping new students this morning. She looked around the room. I know some of you are excited. A few students laughed. I also know some of you are nervous. Almost everyone smiled. Emily laughed. That's completely normal, she continued. I have one small request. When you meet someone today, please don't worry about making mistakes. Just talk. That's how learning begins. I looked at Emma. She smiled. Without saying a word, we both remembered what Lucas had said yesterday. The same advice. Again, maybe successful learners really did think this way. Emily clapped her hands once. Before we go to our classrooms, I have a simple activity. She held up a small basket. Inside, there were colorful cards. Each of you, please take one card. When you find someone with the same color, introduce yourself and ask 3 simple questions. The room became lively. Students walked toward the basket. I reached inside. I pulled out a green card. Daniel looked at his. Blue. Aiko smiled. Yellow. So, we need to find green. I looked around the room. Many students were checking their cards. Then, someone across the lobby raised a green card. She looked at me, then at her card. Then she smiled. I think we're partners. I walked over. Hi, I'm Sarah. She smiled warmly. I'm Sophia. I'm from Spain. It's nice to meet you. You too. We both looked at the paper beside the basket. It said, ask these 3 questions. What's your name? Where are you from? Why are you learning English? Sophia smiled. I'll go first. What's your name? I'm Sarah. Where are you from? I'm from Italy. Why are you learning English? I thought for a second. Then I answered, because I want to meet people. I want to travel. And I want more opportunities. Sophia smiled. I like that answer. My turn. Of course. What's your name? I'm Sophia. Where are you from? I'm from Spain. Why are you learning English? She laughed. My family loves traveling. They're always talking to people. I'm always smiling. But I can't always join the conversation. So, I decided to change that. I nodded. I understand. She smiled. Maybe next summer, I'll travel in English. And maybe I'll visit Italy. I laughed. You're welcome anytime. For the first time that morning, speaking English didn't feel like homework. It felt like opening a door. A door. 2 new people, new places, and new opportunities. Just then, Emily's voice filled the lobby once more. Excellent, everyone. In 5 minutes, you'll meet your teachers. My heart started beating faster again. The next person I was about to meet would be the teacher who would begin changing my English forever. The lobby slowly became quieter. Students finished their conversations. Some were still smiling. Others looked a little nervous again. I looked at my name tag. Then around the room. Just a few minutes ago, I didn't know anyone. Now, I already knew Daniel, Aiko, and Sophia. Maybe making friends wasn't as difficult as I had imagined. Emily smiled at everyone. Thank you. You all did a wonderful job. I hope you've already learned a few new names. Many students nodded. Now, let's meet your teachers. She picked up a clipboard. I'll call your names. When you hear your name, please follow your teacher. One by one. Teachers walked into the lobby. Each of them greeted the students with a smile. A tall man wearing glasses, a cheerful young woman, an older teacher with gray hair. Everyone looked friendly. Emily looked down at her list. Class A. Several students stood up. She continued reading. Class B. More students followed another teacher. Then she smiled. Class C. My heart started beating a little faster. Sarah. Daniel. Aiko. Sophia. I looked at the others. We smiled at each other. That felt comforting. At least, I wouldn't be walking into the classroom alone. A woman with curly brown hair stepped forward. She smiled warmly. Good morning, everyone. My name is Claire. I'll be your teacher. Her voice was calm, friendly, easy to understand. I know today is your first day, so let's make one promise. She looked at all of us. No pressure. No perfect English. Just learning. Everyone smiled. I like that, Daniel whispered. So do I. Claire laughed softly. I heard that. The whole group laughed together. The nervous feeling became a little smaller. We followed Claire upstairs. The classroom was bright. Large windows filled the room with sunlight. There were colorful posters on the walls. One said, "Mistakes help us learn." Another said, "Speak English every day." I smiled. Those words made me feel comfortable. Claire pointed around the room. Please, sit wherever you'd like. There were about 15 students. Some chose seats near the front. Others preferred the back. Daniel looked at me. Want to sit together? Sure. Aiko joined us. Sophia sat at the next table. Claire waited until everyone was seated. Then she wrote one question on the whiteboard. What makes you happy? She turned around. No grammar. No difficult vocabulary. Just one simple answer. She smiled. I'll go first. She pointed to herself. I'm happy when I spend time with my family. Then she smiled. And when I see my students improving. She looked around the room. Who would like to go next? For a moment, the room was completely quiet. Everyone looked at the floor, or at the board, or at their notebook. I could almost hear everyone thinking. Should I speak? What if I make a mistake? Claire didn't rush anyone. She simply smiled and waited. After a few seconds, Daniel slowly raised his hand. Claire smiled. Thank you, Daniel. He stood up. I'm happy. When I play football and when I eat pizza, the whole class laughed. Claire laughed too. Wonderful answer. Simple. Clear. And now I'm thinking about pizza. Everyone laughed again. Daniel sat down, looking much more relaxed. Claire looked around the room again. Who's next? This time, before I could change my mind, my hand went up. Claire smiled. Thank you, Sarah. I stood up, took a small breath, then smiled. I'm happy. When I travel, when I learn something new, and when I drink coffee with friends. Daniel looked at me. He whispered, Good answer. I smiled. Claire nodded. I like that. Thank you for sharing. As I sat down, I realized something. Nobody had laughed at my English. Nobody had corrected every word. Nobody expected perfection. They simply listened. And that small moment changed something inside me. For the first time, I wasn't speaking English to avoid mistakes. I was speaking English to share who I am, one by one. The other students stood up. A young man from Mexico smiled. I'm happy when I cook with my grandmother. A woman from South Korea said. I'm happy when I read books. Another student from Turkey smiled. I'm happy when I listen to music. Every answer was different, but every answer felt honest. Claire nodded after each one. Thank you. Wonderful. Great job. She never interrupted. She never rushed anyone. When the last student finished, Claire smiled at the class. See? You've already had your first English conversation. Several students looked surprised. Claire laughed. You didn't need difficult grammar. You didn't need big words. You just needed something real to say. I liked that. Something real to say? Maybe that was the secret. Claire walked to the whiteboard again. She erased the question. Then she wrote 3 new ones. What do you like? What don't you like? What would you like to learn? She turned around. Now, I'd like you to work with a partner. Daniel looked at me. Partners? I smiled. Let's do it. We turned our chairs slightly toward each other. Claire walked around the classroom. If you forget a word, that's okay. If you need time to think, that's okay too. The important thing is to keep talking. Daniel looked at the first question. What do you like? I smiled. I like coffee. We already know that. He laughed. I also like reading, walking, and taking pictures. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Taking pictures? I nodded. My new friend Lucas is a photographer. He showed me some amazing photos yesterday. Daniel smiled. Maybe he'll teach you. I hope so. My turn? I like football, cooking, and old movies. Old movies? Really? He laughed. My grandfather loves classic films, so I watched them with him. I still do. I smiled. That's a nice memory. He nodded. It is. Then he pointed to the second question. What don't you like? I thought for a moment. I don't like waking up very early. Daniel laughed. Me neither. I don't like cold weather. I prefer sunny days. I smiled. We already have two things in common. He laughed. That's true. Then we looked at the final question. What would you like to learn? Daniel answered first. I'd like to speak English confidently. I'd like to understand movies without subtitles. I smiled. That's one of my goals too. What about you? I'd like to travel and never be afraid to start a conversation. Daniel nodded slowly. I think we'll get there. Before I could answer, Claire clapped her hands gently. Time's up. The room became quiet again. She smiled. I heard lots of wonderful conversations. You should all be proud of yourselves. Then she picked up a small box. I have something for everyone. She walked around the room, stopping at every desk. When she reached ours, she handed each of us a small notebook. The cover was simple, blue, with the school's logo. Across the front, 3 words were printed in white. Listen, speak, grow. I ran my fingers across the cover. I loved those words. Claire smiled. This notebook is your English journal. I'd like you to write in it every day. Just a few sentences. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. I opened the first page. At the top, someone had already written a sentence. Every expert was once a beginner. I smiled. I had seen those words before. On the bookmark. At the bookstore. Maybe it wasn't a coincidence. Maybe I was supposed to remember them. Claire looked around the classroom. I have a challenge for you. When you go home today, write about your first day. 3 sentences. 5 sentences. 10 sentences. It doesn't matter. Just write. Your English grows. Every time you use it. I quietly looked at my notebook. Then I picked up my pen. Without thinking, I wrote my first sentence. Today was a good day. It wasn't a difficult sentence. It wasn't impressive, but it was true. And somehow, it felt like the perfect place to begin. I looked at my notebook. Then at the sentence I had written. Today was a good day. I smiled. It was simple, but it was true. Claire walked slowly around the classroom. She looked at everyone's notebooks. When she reached my desk, she stopped for a moment. She read my sentence. Then she smiled. Sometimes, the simplest sentences are the most meaningful. I looked at her. I almost wrote something longer. She smiled. You'll have plenty of time for that. But today, this sentence is perfect. Those words gave me confidence. Maybe learning English wasn't about using difficult words. Maybe it was about saying something honest. Claire looked at the clock. We still have a few minutes. So, I'd like to show you one more thing. She opened a cabinet. Inside, there were dozens of books. Some were very thin. Others were much thicker. She carried a few of them to the front of the room. These are graded readers. They're written for English learners. She held up the easiest one. You don't need to understand every word. You only need to enjoy the story. I smiled. That reminded me of the book I had bought yesterday. Claire continued. If reading feels difficult, start with one page. If one page feels difficult, read one paragraph. If one paragraph feels difficult, read one sentence. She smiled. But don't stop. The classroom became very quiet. Everyone was listening. Then she asked, Can anyone tell me? Why stories help us learn a language? A few students thought quietly. Then Sophia raised her hand. Because they're interesting. Claire smiled. Yes. Daniel raised his hand. We remember stories better than lists. Excellent. Then, without planning to, I raised my hand too. Claire smiled. Sarah. I took a small breath. When we care about the people, we want to understand what happens next. Claire's smile became even bigger. I couldn't have said it better. She looked around the classroom. That's exactly why we learn through stories. In a story, words have feelings. They have memories. They have meaning. I looked down at my notebook again. Maybe that was happening to me. I wasn't memorizing words anymore. I was collecting moments. The classroom door opened gently. Another teacher smiled. Sorry to interrupt. Claire nodded. No problem. The next class will be here in a few minutes. Claire looked back at us. I guess. That's our time. A few students sighed. Daniel laughed. That went by fast. It did. Claire picked up her notebook. Before you leave, I'd like everyone to do one thing. She pointed around the room. Turn to someone. Shake hands. And say, see you tomorrow. Everyone stood up. Chairs moved. People smiled. I turned toward Daniel. He held out his hand. See you tomorrow. I shook it. See you tomorrow. Then I turned to Aiko. See you tomorrow. She smiled brightly. See you tomorrow. Sophia waved. Don't forget your homework. I laughed. I won't. As we walked toward the door, Claire called my name. Sarah? I turned around. Yes. She smiled. I read your application before you arrived. You wrote that your dream is to speak English confidently. I nodded. Yes. She looked at me for a moment. Then she said, I don't think your biggest challenge is your English. I looked surprised. It's believing that you're already capable of more than you think. For a second, I didn't know what to say. Then I smiled. Thank you. I'll remember that. She nodded. I hope you do. Outside the classroom, the hallway was full of students. Some were introducing themselves. Others were making plans for lunch. Daniel looked at me. A few of us are going to a small cafe near the school. Would you like to come? Before yesterday, I probably would have said, maybe next time. Today, my answer was different. I'd love to. Daniel smiled. Great. Let's go. As we walked down the hallway together, I realized something. When I arrived in this city, I knew no one. Now, I already had people waiting for me. People who knew my name. People who smiled when they saw me. People who said, "See you tomorrow." Maybe? That's when a new place starts to feel like home. And somehow, without even noticing, my English journey had become much more than learning a language. It had become the beginning of a new life. End of episode 3. Next time. Sarah has lunch with her new classmates. A simple conversation turns into an unexpected invitation. And a small misunderstanding leads to one of the funniest moments in her English journey so far. See you in episode 4.